Here we are, Tuesday morning. We're going to walk down Lac Breton. It's mild, a little damp, windy, and you can see the colors against a dismal bluish gray, grayish blue sky. Look at the gold. I don't think it shows as well in the video as it does in real life. And you can see the leaves are starting to drop. Okay? So with this pace of wind, won't be long for the trees to be naked. So Pippi and I will take a walk down here and we'll see if she wants to go to the forest or if she wants to go around to the back of the lake to see if we can get some semblance or a view of our house through the trees. And look at up here, that driveway with the reddish and orange. Beautiful. Beautiful. And straight down here as well. It does seem that on the south-facing side, the red is more predominant than on the north-facing side. But I don't know if there's any, maybe it's my imagination, if there's any factual basis for that. Presumably the sun is south-facing north, or, radiating northward, less so to the southward faces of slopes. So here we are. Definitely more orange and yellow, or orange and red on the left than on the right. But, you have a tall tree like that, it's got a fair bit of orange in there, right beside some yellow. Anyway, what's going on? Oh, we still have a little bit of odor of skunk after Lily really worked her buns off to try to clean up the front hallway. Just some remnants. I don't know, maybe we'll have to put some kind of a deodorizer. I'm going to look at it. I know I think it was Sandy sent me something. I didn't take a look at the link yet. And we'll do that. And hopefully that'll be gone soon enough. And I feel lazy today. I made muffins yesterday. Frozen fruit, mixture of frozen fruit. Used my maple syrup in place of raw sugar. And that's because I had a decent crop of maple syrup. But, when I think about it, the flavor of the maple syrup is certainly preferable to, cane sugar. And so I'm not going to do that anymore when it comes to baking. But I found out that it can be done, where you have 1 cup of sugar, it's 3/4 a cup of maple syrup, and for every cup of what sugar would be, you take 1/4 cup less of liquid. So I made only a single recipe of 12 muffins yesterday, and they turned out well, but I can't get them. I used a blend of bran, whole wheat flour, and white flour. But I can't get them to come out big and fluffy like when you buy them at a good little bake shop, coffee shop. So I don't know, it must be the basic recipe I'm using. I thought it might have been the fact I used white flour the first time about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this time I used a mixture of flours and bran flakes. And so you can see here the structure of the home is up, and it's supposed to rain for the next 3 or 4 days, so hopefully they get the roof on and get it covered or whatever. Anyway, forever changing the road that we walk on very, very often. More and more houses. Certainly since we moved here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th. Oh, you want to go this way, Pip? So there's 5 houses have gone up here in the 16 years of this section of road. And yesterday. What else? I'm doing my best to avoid watching the Trump corruption, but you know, the New York Times expose of his taxes and his finances. That information for me is 5 years old. I remember reading about Trump being in debt to the order of anywhere between 300 and 600 million before he was elected. And the Deutsche Bank was a part of the let's call it the organization of banking and financing, along with the Russian oligarchs. And so this information for me is kind of old news. The difference is that it is now being presented by what we would call very credible journalists who have access to factual evidence, whereas 5 years ago I was finding this information in newspaper expose. Well, I wouldn't know, newspaper clippings, but that's not quite the right word. It's all online. So the equivalent of online newspaper clippings or extracts that people would have in their stories. And these stories would be prepared by non-mainstream media. So in my view, credible sources, because they had little to gain from presenting these findings. So Trump is a criminal. It's been known for a long time. It's now being supported by a lot of evidence, and he is a very sick criminal. If you look at his values, his behaviors, and that of his family, and that of his sycophants, his enablers, the Republican Corrupt Party, the criminal organization known as the Republican Party. So, what's going to happen? Oh, Christ, who knows? The way the system is corrupted so badly in the U.S. this election coming up, the will of the people is clearly to get rid of Trump. The question is, does it get translated into to the election results? There's just too many ways for the election to be subverted. The organized and subtle ways of the Republican Party in particular states, etc., but also the false, let's call it, items being presented by the likes of Putin's thugs and whoever else might be trying to support Trump. Anyway, that's enough mumbling about the politics of the day, for at least in the U.S. What's going on in Canada? I didn't spend too much time watching what Canada's doing, other than over the weekend we know that the NDP is going to support Trudeau, and on the surface they're going in the right direction. Not as aggressively as I would have liked, but I guess you do have to temper a little bit of the bold steps because of the pandemic. I'm not a Trudeau fan per se, but I'm definitely a progressive, and if that's what it takes, so be it. I still intend to vote NDP if the time comes. We've got to keep the idiots out as they try to dress themselves up into sheep's clothing, so to speak. And by the way, I found an item yesterday I posted on my Facebook page about the cost of cleanup of the oil sands, and the fact that the industry is basically turning down. The residual costs of cleanup are greater or equal to the entire costs and profits, revenues and profits, I should say, of the oil sands companies. And the bill for that, so to speak, is going to fall to who? Guess who? the taxpayer. And you got idiots like Jason Kenney asking for more, so that he can give them to the companies who can then go and do what they do and make whatever money they can for themselves and then leave the cleanup to the public. Not acceptable. Just not acceptable. And that's basically a summary of what's gone on for the last 40 or 50 years worldwide. The oil companies and the bankers, they've made their tidy sums, displaced people, in some cases through violent means, and exploited the resources, left the dirt and mess behind, and moved on. That predatory and parasitic capitalism has to stop. It's not an easy thing to correct, but it has to be done for the sake of the planet now. The climate crisis is the most important challenge, notwithstanding the pandemic. So anyway, I've gone on a little too long, I guess, but I tried my best to stay away from political mumbling for the last few walks. Pippi, where are you going? You got to go this way, girl. So we'll sign off. You can see the bed of leaves being formed as we speak. As long as we keep walking on these trails, we should be able to. I've walked them so long, I've almost memorized them all. But when the leaves fall, and if they're not swept away or broken up by foot traffic, you can sometimes take a little wrong turn in the path because it's not so obvious which way it goes. But we know, Pippi especially knows. So I'm amazed sometimes that she'll make the right turn in the right direction on a path that doesn't look so clear. Anyway, signing off on this Tuesday. I feel very humid or clammy again, and hopefully we don't get rained on by the time we get home. Enjoy, everybody. Here, Pippi. Pip, say goodbye. Good girl.